Right, so my name is Ossi Mantylahti. I am the country CEO of Odoo Business Solutions Finland, short for OBS. My background is I am a project manager and all-around geek. And my geekery is especially regarding the laboratories. So today I will be giving you a presentation on a real business case where we actually implemented something rather cool in managing the complex calculations, and we invented a way of doing this in using the help of Google Sheets. You can contact me sending email to finland@odoo-bs.com. So the case what I'm talking about is called TerraLab. And TerraLab is an Odoo extension that extends Odoo's ERP functionality to cover the needs for laboratory operations. The laboratory operations are something that are utilizing, especially in the developing countries, they are not really using any kind of ERP system there, but they are using Microsoft Excel. And it is a real problem because then you can't get certified, you have difficulties tracking down everything, you have a million of Excel files and so on. So we have created a solution that does all the operations that are needed in laboratories. It can manage the samples, it can manage the tests, it can even have a cool mass editor, it can have target uses, it can have all support for ISO 9001 certification. We can have the reports and managing these complex formulas, and best of all, it's native full multilingual support. So if we think about Odoo, how does Odoo fit on this kind of picture? Odoo does have quite a lot of features that are needed for the laboratory operations. It can manage the orders, it can manage the sales offers, it can manage the payment follow-ups, it can manage accounting and inventory management. What Odoo does not, however, have are the management of tests and management of samples. So what does that mean? It means essentially that there must be something that Odoo has to do for a sales order that you are sending out. So therefore, we have introduced two new data types in Odoo's database. And these are test data type and then sample data type. So in the laboratory environment, a test is something that you do. Like, for example, you can measure the pH, or if you are having blood sample, you can check that what is the glucose level there, or even if you are thinking about managing syringes and petri dishes, then you must have a result that is this thing sterile or not. And for these tests, I'm going to go a bit deeper in the next slides. But the other data type, what we are talking about, is a sample. And Odoo does not have this kind of concept that the customer sends something along with the sales order. So the customer confirms the sales order, but then if the customer is obligated on delivering something in order for the provider to be able to do thing, then Odoo falls short. Odoo does not have this kind of data type concept. So we have created this kind of data type. So you can actually see here soil samples which are taken from the field, and they are delivered using these kind of margarine boxes typically to the laboratories. So you have to keep track on those, because of course you can't mix them up, and you may need also to be processing them. Typically the processes are operations that you have to dry them up, you have to take out extra material and so on. So this is a very simple illustration on how do the relations work here now with these samples, and how do they connect for the sales order. What's interesting here is that samples are simple. There can be one or many samples that you can attach for the sales order. But for the tests, this is a bit more complex, because you actually need to have an Odoo product, which of course is a service type, and then that product can have one or several tests. Why is this like that? It is because typically in laboratory environments, you are not only testing one chemical test, you are testing a group of chemical tests. Like, for example, if you have ever taken a blood sample, you know that that there is something called like the basic information about blood, which includes like blood sugar, hemoglobin, good this and good that. So there are actually several different chemical tests, and these connect to the sales product basic blood test. Now, these chemical tests are something that you may need to be reusing. Like let's say that you want to do an extended blood test, and then of course the basic tests are there again on that advanced version. So we have created a way of managing this. Now, next part of the conundrum here is that how do we actually manage the calculations? Because believe it or not, these test results, they are not always so very simple. In laboratory environments, in order to get the end result, like that your blood sugar level is this and this, or this Petri dish is sterile, you need to factor do some calculations. This is where the Microsoft Excel comes in, but we need to do these in Odoo. The formulas sometimes can be complex, and sometimes they change. So we actually need to have a way of managing these formulas, and we need to have a way so that these formulas can also be managed by somebody else than an Odoo technician. It needs to be somebody who is like a laboratory administrator. If we implement these formulas as Python codes, then we will be getting these kind of loads of these kind of errors, and the whole system is next to impossible to manage, because then we essentially would be creating a new version of our extension all the time. So we needed to have something better, something that is easier to be maintain, and something but still quite powerful, because you can't just have like a basic formula that you take these 10 numbers, then you do a sum of these. No, these vary a lot. So what we did, we connected this Google Sheet to Odoo in a manner that Odoo, when a laboratory technician is entering the source numbers for the tests, then he passes those to Google Sheets. Google Sheet has a formula, and Google Sheet calculates the results and returns the end result to Odoo. So, and this idea took some doing, but it works very, very, very well. So here's an example of the. This is a simplified principle of the concept. But what you can see here are the cells A1 to A10, and these are the source values. You can assume, like for example, these are the number of the bacteria nests on a Petri dish after each day, so that A1 is day 1, A2 is day 2, A3 is day 3, and so on. So based on this information, you can actually get the end result. That is does this exceed the bacteria tolerance, and then you have the formula in the cell A11, which gives the result to Odoo that is sterile or not. And as you see here on the formula row, the upmost arrow, there you can see how it is actually factored in. So that was the principle. Now let's take a look at the a real life configuration, how we have done this. So in TerraLab configuration, we have this Google Sheet for all chemical tests. This is, for example, the nitrogen test, and the laboratory technician is expected to be entering the values of sample. This sample, then he has a known target. Then he enters the dilution number, capacity, and weight. And based on these, we actually get this kind of formula where we are getting the number of the 0.25% or it is incorrect value. And this is a standard Google Sheet or Excel formula where we can get the results. So that was pretty simple. We were just doing some adding, multiplying, and dividing. So pretty simple stuff. Yeah, technically this can be done in Python, and there may not be that many errors. But let's take a look at more complex formula where using an external spreadsheet really could be beneficial. So in the world of agriculture, in order to do the analysis for the soil, you have to first determine what is the soil texture. There are 4 basic archetypes of soil texture: clay, loam, sand, and silt, and then they break down to the subcategories. So how do you actually determine what is the soil texture? You need to know the proportions of sand, silt, and clay of these soils. If you are using a sieve, then you need to take and burn out the organic matter. You can use acids like, for example, hydrogen peroxide, and then you just pass them through different sieves, so you can get the different percentages of composition. You can use also other machines, like, for example, the blue thing next to the sieves. That's called pygnometer. After you have these percentages of the composition, and then you need actually to do the calculation. And the calculation is done in a manner that you already now have 30%. You know that this is 30% clay, then it is 20% silt, and then 50% sand. So using this, this is a standard soil texture triangle. You start from the bottom left, and you move to the top right. You'll see what is the clay, and here you can see that we are having 30% of clay. You are taking that and you are drawing a line for it. Then you move to the silt. You look at the silt, and it's 20% silt. Then you are seeing that it is now intersecting at the sandy clay loam area of the soil texture. And last one is sand, which is giving the final. This is like an error correction, but it should be intersecting with these lines in some other area here. So now this is how these technicians are doing these kind of calculations using Excel, and they are actually doing this often on pen and paper to determine what is the correct way. So of course, now we need to computerize this. And anybody up for fancy trigonometry? Yes, that was my first thing as well. And there actually exists some advanced formulas where you can determine what is this, what is the correct area. The problem here is that in the world of agriculture, the soil texture triangle shapes. So if you look at, for example, the green ones, silt on the bottom right-hand corner, that's a bit irregular shape. And how do you? And in order to be factoring this as some kind of vector, that's a bit more challenging. So how do we actually do it? Here is how we actually are doing it. When you are using a pygnometer, the first thing is that we have here in the cells D1 to G9, we have the first values where you are measuring the viscosity of the soil sample, and then you are taking the temperature of each reading. And here, next thing, what you have to do, the next phase starting from the line 11 is to apply a correction. There's a table for correction depending on the temperatures. And here is what you can see on the cells A1 to B28 on the left-hand corner. This is a table for the correction. So if the temperature is 19 degrees, you have to apply the correction of minus 0.18 here. And what this does is that it is actually using the Google Sheets or Excel's own VLOOKUP function, so it can get the correct values. So here now we are moving to line 17, where we are getting the values of the correction. And then we need to so now we have corrected values, and now you see that we are already moving to use checking the formulas in more advanced way that is possible in Python. If you start to do this in Python code, now here's your chance of getting a lot of errors. Last step is that you have to actually determine what is the name of the soil texture. And for that one, there's another VLOOKUP table from the cells A30 to B40, where you can actually see the code of the area and the name of that one. So what we did here is that we actually applied a bit of brute force for this triangle lookup. So what we did, we actually draw the triangle just using the Google Sheet cells as a reference, and we just draw that, okay, this goes here, this goes there, and then we wrote the values of that soil texture there. And as you see, as I pointed out already, these are irregular areas, and our approach is to use the brute force instead of vectors and trigonometry, because there's a neat function in Excel and Google Sheet, and it's called index. And what it does, it takes a matrix, like this is a matrix here, and then it looks for the cells C14 to CX1 through 103. And then it identifies what is the value in the coordinates G25 and G26. Then it returns the value there where it is this has been found, and this G25 and G26, they are actually here in this sheet. So then we are getting the value that this is actually, it's called Franco-Archioso. I can't remember what is that in English, but it works. It picks up the value, and it's pretty neat trick. Okay. That was a bit complex formula. Let's talk a bit about the implementation details. So, first of all, what we are doing here is that we are utilizing the Odoo's already existing Google Drive and Google Spreadsheet API functions, because Odoo already has this integration, so we didn't really need to reinvent this wheel, and we just created our own application in Google Cloud, and then there we are sharing this spreadsheet to Odoo's instance. We have to Odoo does not support that you can have multiple Google Sheets available. So therefore, we actually have to we have to override this Google Drive client ID and client secret by our own. So we don't. It is not possible to use our TerraLab if somebody is already actively using Google Sheets with some other applications in this Odoo installation. Little drawback, but not that serious. Second is just for the technical people. This Requirementstxt. This is the correct way of putting these components there, and once you have these there, then the Odoo actually builds it, and it even works on Odoo SH. So then Odoo can talk to Google Sheet and pass the data and return the data, and then on the right hand side you can see the simple calls to the spreadsheet. Last, there has been, when we introduced this topic to Odoo's account manager, they were immediately asking that why are you using Google Sheets? Why don't you use the Odoo's new cool internal spreadsheet? It's a neat idea, but there are a couple of drawbacks, and I don't consider this Odoo's internal spreadsheet really yet feasible solution for our needs. Well, first of all, it is intended, it's almost like a read-only. So it's intended for creating reports and ad hoc reports in Odoo. It is not intended for data exchange. It lacks, for example, the functions for being able to save the spreadsheet, make a backup copy, and I don't think that you can even call the internal spreadsheets from your own Odoo extension. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but
no, I confirm.
Okay, Alexander. So you cannot refer them from your own applications in Odoo.
Yeah, I didn't find how to do that. At least not in 14.
Yeah, and I checked the 15 documentation, so that wasn't possible. At least it wasn't visible there either. So I think the Odoo's own spreadsheet application is a neat one, but it lacks quite a lot of features, and Google Sheet works. So this was our way of solving the problem. That is it for my presentation. Now I have reserved some time for questions and comments. So please go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Ossi, for this nice on-hand. Well, first for giving us a vision of a field that personally I didn't have any contact with in our customer base at Camp to Camp. So that was super interesting. You may find some. I mean, part of what you have is the reverse logistic part. When you sell something, you expect to receive some goods, some products. So you find that in the recycling industry. And I hadn't thought that the laboratory environments were also part of this, but yes, it makes sense, definitely. I don't see many questions in the chat so far.
Frederick is having his hand up.
Yeah, just step into as I have to speak, right to speak here. Sorry, Alexander.
Yeah, please do.
I just have a question on your integration. You said in the last words that you decided to go for Google Spreadsheets to export, and because the use of the Odoo own spreadsheet application was not clear. Do you have any plans or intentions to replace using Google Spreadsheets with, for instance, how's it called, the plugin for LibreOffice that you can use with Nextcloud? I think it's CollaboraOffice or only Office. Do you have intentions to use those, because that would be fully open source and not like Google involving Google?
That's a good question. Frankly, the thing is that why we went with Google is that it's free like a beer. I know it's not free like a speech, but it didn't cost anything. So that was the and we needed to have the spreadsheet from somewhere. So second thing is that Odoo already has this integration. I know that it would be nice to have the Nextcloud or some other open source application, but Odoo does not provide the integration to those in the same manner.
Yeah, I think that their spreadsheet application, I mean, they use it as a unique selling proposition for the enterprise version, if I'm not mistaken. And I think using a tabular spreadsheet application inside Odoo, it's a valuable approach. And I think that it would be even more valuable if we could do it open source, right? I mean, if we either plug a JavaScript library into that or interface with an external library.
The thing is, the current spreadsheet application in Odoo Enterprise is meant to extract data from Odoo and then let you do whatever you want. It's not meant to prepare a template and let you fill in some data and then make some calculation which are pre-filled from the template.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You have
exactly.
basic bricks, but yeah.
I can even show you the configuration spreadsheet. So this is the configuration spreadsheet. So here we have all of the chemical tests defined, and then we have all the Odoo products where we can see that the chemical tests connects to Odoo product. Then we have product categories, we have the permission matrix, target uses, target use regions, and so on. So the benefit of this approach is also that we can load everything to Odoo using just a simple loop, and we don't need to be manually creating maybe 1,000 Odoo products. We can just use this for downloading these from this configuration file to Odoo. And then the thing how it works is that as the user is using Odoo's interface, this is happening in the background. These numbers, as you see on the yellow cells, are coming from Odoo once the user presses the button. Please calculate my results. I have now given you these source variable values. Then Google Sheet does the calculation, and Odoo reads the cell B14 and gets the values there. I think we have another question from Emil.
Yes, just out the window. Emil is asking about the reverse logistic. Do we have a module to get the reverse logistics bit working? That is, receiving products when a sale order is made instead of delivering a product.
So there exists this kind of module.
Well, do you have something? Well, actually, you're not receiving products; you're receiving samples, so that's different in your setup. And as far as I know, there is no reverse logistics module in the OCA. So things have been built using routes in the past. I'm not sure they made it straight to the OCA. We usually, when we have to do this at Camp to Camp for a few customers, we create a route which pulls things from the customer before often when in the cases we had it was some treatments which were to be applied on a product, and then the product with the treatment applied was delivered back. So it's kind of a subcontracting flow. And in that case, it was possible to pull things using a pull route to achieve the reverse logistics configuration.
I see. So it is. We actually had another client case where the client was buying like used jewelry. So that's it's a that's a bit similar business case, and there is yeah, and then let's say that you run a repair shop. Somebody need to send you a broken iPhone.
Yep. Then for the repair operation, you could use the RMA modules, which is a
return merchandise authorization.
Yes, because you don't have to have that good delivered in the first place. So in that case, you instead of creating a sale order, you create an RMA case and trigger manually the creation of the return, then the repair order, and then a delivery back.
Sounds very interesting.
This is how I would do it. Do we have any other questions around?
Out of topic. I love your interior design. Why, thank you. I can't claim the credit of Helsinki.
Okay, well, if this is all, I think I will thank you, Ossi, for this really nice presentation. And I see there's a lot of nifty work done here. I hope you'll be able to reuse it for other customers.
Absolutely. It is productized already. What remains to be open is still. And I would love to have the community feedback on how do we actually apply the open source strategy for this. I would love to be able to open source this and use the community, but we have to still come up with a bit of business model for because developers need to eat, and it's. Totally. So if somebody has any good ideas, please do get in touch with me. Finland@odoo-bs.com.
Okay, and maybe stay around a little bit on Discord on the Room 1 channel, and you may get some feedback there.